You hate the traffic jams and the constant noise of the city. You think you want to escape to a place where the only sound is the wind. But in America, silence is not just a lifestyle choice. It is a logistical gamble that most people are not prepared to take. We are looking at the loneliest towns in the United States as of early 2026. These are places where the distance between you and a hospital is measured in hours, where running out of gas is a survival situation rather than a simple annoyance. The data for this year shows that rural areas are facing a massive gap in basic services. We have ranked these towns based on their physical isolation and their survival risks. This is not a travel guide for your next vacation. This is a warning about what happens when you disconnect from the systems that keep you alive. 1. If you think a small town is just a cheaper version of the city, you are wrong. Isolation has a price tag that Zillow never shows you in the listing. Let's look at the towns where silence is the only thing you can count on. Number 10. Valentine, Nebraska. Valentine sits right in the middle of the Nebraska sandhills. It looks like a peaceful movie set, but the numbers tell a different story. The nearest major city with a top-tier hospital is over 4 hours away in South Dakota. In 2026, the cost of bringing fresh food to this part of the plains has jumped by 20%. The town has a population of about 2,600 people. That might sound like enough neighbors until you realize how big the empty space around them is. During the winter of 2025, several storms shut down the only highways leading into town for days. Fine. When the snow piles up, the silence stops being peaceful and starts being heavy. You are living on an island made of grass and sand. If your power goes out during a blizzard, you are on your own. The local grid is aging and the repair crews have to travel from hundreds of miles away. Most people here keep enough wood and food to last for weeks because they have to. The vacancy rate in the surrounding counties is at an all-time high this year. People are moving out because the distance is becoming too expensive to manage. You might love the wide open views for the first month, but by the second month, you realize that the horizon never ends. It is a place where you can drive for 60 miles and not see a single gas station. The isolation here is a slow burn that wears down your mental health. The town is quiet because there is simply nowhere else to go. If you want to live here, you need to be an expert in fixing things yourself, because help is not coming anytime soon when the weather turns bad. It is number 10 on our list because it still has some basic shops, but it is the last stop before the truly empty parts of the country begin. Valentine is a reminder that space is the ultimate luxury and the ultimate risk. The cost of living here is low only if you never have an emergency. Once something goes wrong, the price of your survival goes through the roof. Number 9. Marfa, Texas. Marfa is famous for its art and its mysterious desert lights, but in 2026 it has become a case study in expensive isolation. The nearest commercial airport is in El Paso, which is a 3-hour drive across the desert. You rich people fly in on private jets to look at modern art in the middle of nowhere. This has pushed the price of a basic house to over $500,000. The local people who work in the shops can no longer afford to live in town. You are paying New York prices to live in a place with limited water. The desert heat here is relentless, and the infrastructure is struggling to keep up. The high altitude makes the sun feel even more aggressive than it is. The art installations are beautiful, but they do not provide medical care or emergency services. If you have a heart attack in Marfa, you are waiting for a life flight helicopter. That flight alone will cost you $30,000 before you even reach a bed. The town feels like a movie set that stayed up too long. This is lonely because the original community has been replaced by part-time residents. Most of the houses sit empty for 10 months out of the year. Walking down the street at night feels like walking through a ghost town for millionaires. The silence here is manufactured and curated. It is a playground for people who want to pretend they are roughing it, but the reality of the desert is still right outside the city limits. Dust storms in early 2026 have caused major damage to the solar grids many homes rely on. Repair parts have to be shipped from hours away, which leads to long delays. You are living in a bubble of luxury surrounded by hundreds of miles of dirt. The novelty of the art galleries wears off quickly when the power goes out. It is a town that lives on its image rather than its resources. 1. Isolation here is a fashion statement that comes with a massive bill. If you are not wealthy, Marfa is just another hot place where you are stuck. It is number 9 because it still has high-end coffee and Wi-Fi, but it is a very fragile kind of civilization. Number 8. Terlingua, Texas. Terlingua is what happens when a town decides to stop caring about the outside world. It is located right on the edge of Big Bend National Park. The population is around 100 people, and they are all there on purpose. This is a place for people who want to be left alone by the government, but being left alone means you are responsible for everything. There is no municipal water system in Terlingua. Most people catch rainwater in tanks or pay to have it hauled in by truck. In the 2026 heat wave, as the price of hauled water reached a record high. Living here means monitoring your water levels like a pilot monitors fuel. One long shower can literally cost you $50 in supplies. The sun is the boss here, and it never takes a day off. The nearest real grocery store is an 80-mile round trip. If you forget to buy eggs, you are not going back until next week. The roads are rough, and the dust gets into everything you own. Medical services are almost non-existent in the immediate area. The local clinic is only open on certain days, and it is very limited. People move here to escape the system, but the desert doesn't care about your politics. Dehydration and heat stroke are constant threats for everyone. The isolation is physical, and it is very heavy. You can go days without seeing another human being if you stay on your property. The wind is the only neighbor that ever stops by. It is number 8 because the environment is actively trying to push you out. Survival in Terlingua requires a specific type of mental toughness. You have to be comfortable with the idea that no one is watching out for you. The night sky is amazing, but it is a very lonely view. It is a place where you can feel the weight of the earth around you. The town is technically alive, but it feels like it is fading away. If you don't have a backup plan, Terlingua will break you. Number 7, Eureka, Nevada. Eureka is the self-proclaimed loneliest town on the loneliest road. It sits on US Route 50 in the middle of the high Nevada desert. There are about 480 people living here in early 2026. The nearest city of any size is Reno, which is a 4-hour drive to the west. The road between here and there is mostly empty space and mountains. If your car breaks down on Route 50, you might wait hours for another vehicle. Cell phone service is patchy at best and completely gone in many sections. The town itself is a relic of the silver mining era. The buildings are old, and the streets are quiet during the day. The local economy depends on the few mines that are still operating. If the mines ever close for good, the town will disappear. The isolation here is a geographic fact that you cannot ignore. Everything you consume has to travel across hundreds of miles of desert. This makes the price of gas and milk significantly higher than the national average. In 2026, the local gas station is charging a $2 premium per gallon. They can do this because they are the only option for 50 miles in either direction. Survival in Eureka means having a very reliable vehicle. A flat tire here is not a minor delay, it is a dangerous situation. The winter temperatures can drop well below 0 for weeks. When the snow hits the mountain passes, the town is effectively cut off. The silence in the desert is so loud that it makes your ears ring. You are surrounded by millions of acres of public land where no one lives. It is number 7 because of the sheer vastness of the landscape. You are a tiny speck in a very large and indifferent world. The people who stay here value their independence above everything else, but that independence comes at the cost of being forgotten by the world. If you want to disappear, Eureka is a good place to start, but don't expect the world to come looking for you if you get lost. Number 6, Hanksville, Utah. Hanksville looks like a small dot on a map of red rocks and dust. It is one of the most remote towns in the lower 48 states. The population is roughly 215 people. NASA uses this area to test Mars rovers because the soil is so dead. If the government thinks a place is good for simulating another planet, you should listen. The nearest real hospital is 2 hours away over mountain roads. There is one main road in and one main road out. Flash floods in 2025 washed out sections of the highway and cut the town off. For 3 days, the only way to get supplies in was by small aircraft. This is the reality of living in a place where the earth is still in charge. The cost of living is rising here because the trucking companies are adding surcharges. It is simply too expensive to drive a semi-truck out here for such a small town. The silence is constant and it is very dry. You can see for miles, but there is nothing to see but red rock. It is a beautiful landscape that is completely hostile to human life. There is no local industry other than a bit of tourism for the national parks. Most people here are retirees or people working remote jobs, but the internet is slow and expensive because the infrastructure infrastructure is old. In 2026, the local provider has failed to upgrade the towers. This means the town is falling further behind the rest of the country. Isolation here is not just about miles, it is about technology. You are living in the past while the rest of the world moves on. It is number 6 because it is a fragile outpost in a desert wilderness. One bad season could turn this place into a ghost town. The silence is the sound of a community that is slowly shrinking. If you live here, you are committed to a very lonely struggle. The desert doesn't give anything back to the people who live in it. Number 5. Garden City, Kansas. Garden City is different from the other towns on this list. It actually has a population of about 26,000 people, but it is number 5 because it is a geographical island. It is the largest city in a 3-hour radius in any direction. Once you leave the city limits, you are in a sea of corn and wheat. The nearest major urban center is Wichita, and it is a long, boring drive. The isolation here is psychological more than it is physical. You have a Walmart and a Target, but you are still stuck in the plains. The winds here are constant and they carry the smell of the massive feedlots. The local economy is built on meat packing and industrial farming. In 2026, the automation of these plants has led to a lot of job losses. This has created a sense of unease in the community. You are living in a place where the horizon is perfectly flat in every direction. There are no mountains or forests to break the monotony of the land. Many people who move here for work end up leaving within a year. They can't handle the feeling of being trapped in the center of the country. It is a place where you are surrounded by people, but you are still alone. The city is a bubble of noise in a vast and silent ocean of dirt. Traveling to see a concert or a pro sports game is a 2-day event. The cost of leaving is the time it takes to get anywhere else. The town is lonely because it is an outpost of the industrial world. It exists to process food for people who live thousands of miles away. The people who stay are often there because they have no other choice. It is number 5 because the scale of the emptiness around it is terrifying. You can drive for 3 hours and the scenery will not change once. That kind of repetition can break your mind if you are not careful. Garden City is a reminder that being around people doesn't stop you from being lonely, especially when those people are just as stuck as you are. Number 4, Whittier, Alaska. Whittier is the town that lives under one roof. Almost everyone in the population of 270 lives in one building. The Begich Towers is a 14-story relic from the Cold War. It houses the school, the police station, and the grocery store. You never have to go outside to get your mail or go to work. This sounds convenient until you realize that the weather is the reason why. Whittier is one of the wettest and windiest places in North America. The mountains trap the moisture and it rains or snows almost every day. The only way into town by land is through a 2-mile-long tunnel. The tunnel is only wide enough for one direction of traffic at a time. It closes every night at 10:30 and doesn't open until the morning. If you miss the last opening, you are sleeping in your car on the other side. The isolation is controlled by a gate and a schedule. Living in one building means you have no privacy from your neighbors. Everyone knows what you bought at the store and who you are talking to. In 2026, the building's heating system has become a major point of conflict. The cost of fuel in Alaska has doubled and the residents are struggling to pay. The town is a social experiment that never ended. You are never truly alone, but you are completely cut off from the world. The mountains rise straight up from the sea and block the sun for months. It is a dark and damp kind of loneliness. People move here to hide, but they end up being watched by everyone. It is number 4 because it is a claustrophobic trap in a beautiful place. You are a prisoner of the weather and the tunnel. The silence here is the sound of the rain hitting the windows for days. If you can't handle your neighbors, you can't live in Whittier because there is nowhere else for you to go when the tunnel is closed. Number 3, Chicken, Alaska. Chicken is a town that barely exists during the winter months. The population drops to about 15 people when the snow starts to fall. It is located on the top of the World Highway, which is closed half the year. There is no electricity grid and no telephone lines in Chicken. People rely on generators and satellite links to stay connected. In 2026, a massive solar storm knocked out the satellite service for a week. The people in Chicken were completely silent to the outside world during that time. There are no flush toilets in the town, only outhouses. When it is 40 degrees below zero, going to the bathroom is a survival task. Since the cost of heating a small cabin can be over $1,000 a month, everything has to be flown in or brought in by truck during the short summer. The isolation here is extreme and it is very cold. The silence of the Arctic is different from the desert. It is a heavy, frozen silence that feels like it could shatter. The people who live here are often gold miners or people fleeing society. They don't want to be found and they don't want to be helped. If you get sick and chicken during the winter, you are in a lot of trouble. There are no doctors and no pharmacies for hundreds of miles. The nearest town with a hospital is Fairbanks, and that is a long flight away. You are living on the very edge of what is possible for human life. It is number 3 because the environment is actively trying to kill you. One mistake with your heater or your food supply can be fatal. The loneliness is a physical presence that sits in the room with you. It is a place where you can go months without seeing a new face. The only thing that moves is the shadow of the mountains. If you love the cold and hate people, chicken is for you, but don't expect a warm welcome from the land. Number 2, Lost Springs, Wyoming. Lost Springs is the smallest incorporated town in the United States. The population has fluctuated between 1 and 4 people for decades. In early 2026, the official count is just 3 residents. There are more abandoned buildings than there are living humans. The town sits next to a lonely stretch of highway and a railroad track. The trains pass through, but they never stop here. The isolation is a void that swallows everything. There is no store, no gas station, and no post office in town anymore. If you want a gallon of milk, you have to drive 30 miles to the next town. The silence is only broken by the sound of the wind through the dead grass. There is no local economy and no reason for the town to exist. It stays on the map because of a few stubborn people who refuse to leave. Living here means being a guardian of a dying memory. You are surrounded by the ruins of homes where families used to live. The psychological toll of living in a ghost town is very high. There is no social life and no community to support you. If you have a medical emergency, no one will hear you scream. The nearest neighbor is miles away and they might not even be home. In 2026, the state has considered de-incorporating the town to save money. The few residents are fighting to keep their status, but it is a losing battle. The town is number 2 because it is the definition of a social vacuum. It is a place where time has stopped, but the world keeps moving. You are a ghost in a land of ghosts. The loneliness here is a quiet despair that never goes away. It is a place where the past is more real than the present. If you stay in Lost Springs, you are choosing to be a footnote in history. Number 1, Supai, Arizona. Supai is the most isolated town in the contiguous United States. It is located at the bottom of the Grand Canyon on the Havasupai Reservation. There are no roads that lead to this town. To get here, you have to hike 8 miles down a steep mountain trail. Your other options are a mule ride or a very expensive helicopter flight. This is the only place in America where the mail is still delivered by mule train. Every piece of food and every bag of trash has to be carried in or out by animals. In 2026, the cost of living here is the highest in the region. A basic bag of flour can cost $20 because of the logistics. There are about 200 people living in the village. They are cut off from the rest of the country by thousands of feet of rock. The isolation is vertical and it is absolute. If there is a flash flood, the trail is washed away and the town is trapped. In 2025, a major flood destroyed the water lines and the town was in crisis. Emergency supplies had to be dropped by military aircraft. This is the price of living in one of the most beautiful places on Earth. You have no access to a pharmacy, a car, or a modern grocery store. And everything you need must be planned weeks in advance. The silence in the canyon is ancient and it is very deep. You are living in a place where the modern world simply does not exist. The internet is slow and provided by a single satellite link. If the power goes out, you are back in the 1800s. It is number 1 because it is disconnected from the American grid. It is an island of rock and water in a sea of desert. The loneliness here is tribal and historical. You are part of a small group of people against a very harsh world. If you don't belong here, you will never survive the isolation. The canyon walls are your only walls and they are very high. So Pi is a reminder that we are only as strong as our connections. And here, those connections are as thin as a mountain trail. trail. The silence of the canyon is the loudest thing you will ever hear. These 10 towns are the reality of the American dream gone quiet. We spend our lives trying to buy more space and more privacy, but these places show us what happens when we finally get it. We find out that we are small and the world is very big. We find out that our convenience is a fragile thing. The silence you think you want might be the most dangerous thing you ever find. Next time you're stuck in traffic, look at the people around you. They are annoying and they are loud, but they are also your safety net. In Supai or Chicken, there is no one to hear you when things go wrong. The loneliest towns in America are not just locations, they are warnings. Choose your silence carefully, because once you find it, you might not be able to find your way back. Subscribe for more stories about the parts of America that no one visits. I am your guide to the reality of the American landscape. Stay safe, stay connected, and think twice before you move to the desert. Silence is beautiful until it is the only thing you have left. And in these 10 towns, silence is all there is.